Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for taking time to join us today. We truly appreciate you being here. Before we dive into today's topic, I'd like to spend just a few minutes sharing how Penny Insurance supports agents in growing and scaling their life insurance business in a practical, sustainable way. Over the years, we've worked with agents across a wide range of markets and production levels, and one pattern consistently stands out. Life insurance opportunities rarely disappear because clients lack interest or because the solution isn't appropriate. More often, strong cases slow down or even fall apart because of the operational demands required to move them from conversation to placement. Between gathering information, completing applications, managing requirements, coordinating underwriting, communicating with carriers, and maintaining consistent follow-up, the administrative side of life insurance can quickly become overwhelming. Even highly successful producers find themselves pulled away from revenue-generating activities simply to keep cases moving forward. And when follow-up becomes inconsistent or timelines stretch too long, momentum fades. Clients become distracted, decisions get delayed, and opportunities that should have resulted in placed business are lost. Not because of strategy, but because of process. That challenge is exactly what led us to build the Penny A-Team. The A-Team is a dedicated group of licensed specialists designed to function as a true operational extension of your practice. Once you identify an opportunity and make a warm introduction, the A-Team steps in to guide and manage the entire implementation process, from the initial client discussion all the way through underwriting, policy approval, and delivery. Here's what that support looks like in practice. The A-Team assists with and helps lead client conversations when needed, ensuring clarity and professionalism throughout the process. They handle application completion and manage all required documentation, reducing the administrative burden on you and your staff. They coordinate directly with carriers and underwriting teams, tracking requirements and maintaining consistent communication. They actively monitor every case to ensure steady progress, proactive follow-up, and timely movement towards issue. Instead of juggling paperwork, status updates, and carrier communication, you remain focused on the highest value parts of your role: building relationships, advising clients, uncovering new opportunities, and growing your business. It's important to emphasize that this is not outsourcing, and it's not a handoff that removes you from the client relationship. The A-Team operates as a structured extension of your practice, working behind the scenes while you remain the trusted advisor at the center of the relationship. Our systems are designed to keep cases organized, compliant, and moving efficiently while preserving the continuity and professionalism your clients expect. The impact is straightforward but meaningful. Cases move faster, follow-up remains consistent, underwriting momentum is maintained, placement rates improve, and agents gain back valuable time without needing to hire additional internal staff or expend operational overhead. Ultimately, the goal is simple: help you place more business, create a smoother experience for your clients, and allow you to scale production without increasing complexity. With that context in mind, let's transition into today's discussion. So, today's discussion: term versus permanent life insurance, making the right choice at each stage in life. Briefly, I'll introduce myself. My name is Chad Strano. I'm the brokerage manager here at Penny Insurance, and I've been in the business going on 20 years. Next year will be my 20th year. Been with Penny for about 3 or 4 months now. Came on board last November. Before that, I was in a role as a market director for a final expense insurance company for many years. And prior to that, I was just an insurance broker, like most of everybody here on this call today, for about 10 to 11 years before that. So I've been in the field, I've been in the office, and I've been around most or all of these products we'll be discussing today. On this screen, you have all of my contact information to reach me or to get a hold of me. Email cstrano@pennyinsurance.com. And my phone number is 800-823-4852, extension 3974. So we'll start with what is term life insurance. Some of the stuff that we'll be covering in the beginning is some of the basic stuff. It'll be a bit of a bit of everything. So it'll be valuable depending on who's listening, what topics we'll be covering. We'll start with kind of the basic stuff to get started, and we'll move through the rest of the presentation. So term life insurance coverage for a specific period. Obviously, that's where term comes in. Some examples are 10, 20, and 30 years. Some terms go longer than that now even. So if you pass away during the term, your beneficiaries receive the payout. Pretty simple to understand. Some of the pros with term: lower cost, much more affordable, especially when young. Simple and easy to understand. Not a lot of moving parts. Ideal for income replacement, and also great for covering mortgage, covering costs during your child raising years, debts, business loans, etc. A few of the cons: no payout if you outlive the term, no cash value, and premiums increase if renewed later on. Now we'll shift into permanent life insurance. Permanent life insurance is a form of lifelong coverage that stays in force for your entire life as long as you continue paying the required premiums. It differs from term insurance, which only covers you for a set number of years. Permanent life insurance provides lifetime protection. The policy doesn't expire as long as premiums are paid. A guaranteed death benefit, money paid to your beneficiaries whenever you pass away. A cash value component. Part of your premium goes into a savings-like account that grows over time and can be borrowed against or withdrawn under certain conditions. Some of the pros to permanent. Lifelong coverage, as we mentioned on the previous slide. Coverage lasts as long as premiums are paid, no expiration date, so you don't have to worry about outliving your coverage. Cash value growth. Part of your premium builds tax-deferred cash value over time. You can borrow against it or use it to pay premiums, so it's flexible. Predictable premiums. Whole life policies often lock in premiums that never increase, so that provides stability. Access to funds. Loans or withdrawals can be used for emergencies or opportunities, though they do reduce the death benefit if you do so. Some of the cons to permanent. High cost. Premiums are significantly higher than term life, often many times more. Complexity. Policies can be sometimes difficult to understand, especially universal and variable life structures. Reduced death benefit if borrowing. Loans or withdrawals decrease the payout your beneficiaries receive. That could be a con if you've gone in, if somebody has taken money out of their policy prior. So we'll shift into a little bit on the IUL, as that ties into a permanent life. IUL benefits and strategies. And IUL, which many of you on this call are familiar with, is a form of permanent life insurance that ties its cash value growth to a market index such as the S&P 500. It offers lifelong coverage, flexible premiums, and tax-advantaged growth with downside protection through a 0% floor. Some benefits and strategies continued on the IUL that I'll share. IULs combine permanent life insurance with an index-linked cash value growth, giving them a unique blend of protection and flexibility. Market-linked growth. Your cash value earns interest based on an index, commonly the S&P 500, letting you participate in market gains without risking principal, thanks to that 0% floor, as I mentioned. Flexible premiums. You can increase, decrease, or skip premiums depending on your financial situation. I know with my IUL that I have personally, I've done all three of those things at one point or another, so I like that flexibility. Tax advantage growth. Cash value grows tax deferred, and you can access it tax-free through policy loans if structured properly. Retirement income potential. IULs can serve as a supplemental retirement income stream using tax-free loans. Downside protection. Even if the index performs poorly, your credited interest won't go below the floor, often 0%. Okay, now let's talk a little bit, since we covered the different types, let's talk about a little bit about what Penny does. What the Penny A-Team handles, and I mentioned it a little bit in the introduction. It's a full administrative case management from start to finish, application preparation and completion support, ongoing client and case follow-up coordination, underwriting communication and case tracking, requirement ordering and status management, process oversight to prevent stalled or lost cases, operational execution that keeps production moving. Those are all factors that I know as an agent I would have loved to have back when I started my journey in this business, because all those things that I just mentioned take an enormous amount of time away from what we are best at, and that's being out in front of clients and selling. So that's a great benefit, having the ability to take on that load. Results agencies experience. Faster case movement from submission to placement. Higher conversion and placement rates. That's very important. More consistent follow through across every case. Increased production capacity without hiring staff. Scalable life insurance growth supported behind the scenes. So all these things, all they do is help efficiency across the board. So those are great. And a little flow chart on how the A-Team supports your case from interest to issue. So starting at the beginning, the client expresses some interest. You, the agent, makes a warm intro to our A-Team. A team conducts a full client call. Our A-Team does. The A-Team completes the application. A-Team manages underwriting. The policy gets issued, and the A-Team notifies the agent. So no handoffs, no confusion, no dropped cases. The client relationship is preserved. Some of our top carriers I've listed here on the board. There are many more that we offer. I couldn't fit them all on this screen. So anybody that's on this call, I'm happy to go through all those carriers with you offline, so that you know that of all of our different companies and product offerings that we have here at Penny. But I threw up just a few of them up there on the board: Allianz, Mass, Mutual, Lincoln, John Hancock, Meritus, American General, and Mutual of Omaha. And a little bit of a comparison chart up here, just to kind of show what the carriers do and some of their strengths. So Allianz, as you can see at the top, term and IUL. Their specialty and strength, strong accumulation focus. IUL, best use case, IUL accumulation and retirement income strategies is probably, the best use of Allianz. AIG listed below that, term and IUL once again, and survivorship policies. Their business strength and specialty strength had broad underwriting flexibility and best used for competitive pricing and large face amounts. So that's good information to know when you have a large case. Meritus, term life, IUL, whole life, and survivorship. So they cover everything across the board. Their strengths and specialties is living benefits and riders. Living benefits are very important, very popular these days, and most agents are having that discussion and offering that when they're meeting with their clients. Best use case, balance, planning plus protection and accumulation once again. John Hancock, term life, IUL, whole life, survivorship. Specialty strength vitality program and underwriting. So that's very interesting. I can elaborate more on that too offline as well. I had a meeting with one of the internals at John Hancock recently and got updated on all those processes. So I'm happy to share that information individually after the meeting with anybody that's interested in knowing more on that. Best use case, health-focused clients and premium financing. Lincoln Financial Group, term IUL, whole life survivorship, specialty and strength, advanced markets depth. That's good to know. And best use case, high net worth and business planning. Mass Mutual, term IUL, whole life and survivorship. Dividend history is their specialty and strength. And then best use case, whole life and estate planning. And then lastly, Mutual Omaha, term IUL and whole life. Their strength and specialty is simplified issue and specialty products. Best use case, middle market and fast underwriting. I know everybody on this call loves fast underwriting. I've had trouble finding somebody that likes slow underwriting. I have difficulty finding agents that look for that. So that's a feather in their cap as well. So as we've gone through all of those different carriers and all those different strengths and the different types of insurances, I'll just wrap up with some closing thoughts. Life insurance decisions work best when aligned with life stage goals and long-term planning. Not one product that I've mentioned is better than the other. They're all important, and it's just a matter of matching the right product with what your client's need really is. Sometimes that's a term policy. Others, that's an IUL. Sometimes it's both. I have both, and I know many, there's a need for both. So it's really case by case. It's not one or the other. It's a matter of matching up the right product with whatever your client's needs are. And that goes into the long-term planning. Term and permanent coverage are not competitors, like I just alluded to. They serve different roles within a strategy. Very important to comprehend that. Protection needs often evolve over time as income, assets, and responsibilities change. Life is fluid. Things are going to change. People's income change. It goes up, it goes down. Their responsibilities change, their expenses change. That's why there's a need for a good agent will be meeting with their customer or their client or customer often and regularly to make sure they're in tune with what those changes are so that they can pivot and make sure that their plan is matching what their current needs are. Permanent solutions can add flexibility, accumulation potential, and legacy planning benefits. That's another thing that would be discussed in a meeting with a client once you really get to know your client and they open up and share with you all their ins and outs of what they're concerned about and what they're needing and what keeps them up at night. That's what fits into that conversation. Indexed Universal Life offers a balance of protection, flexibility, and growth potential. Clear positioning helps clients move forward with confidence instead of comparison fatigue. Sometimes if we overpresent and we flood the client with too much information, it can be overwhelming. So clear positioning, I like the way that's phrased, helps clients move forward with, I'm going to read this once again. Clear positioning helps clients move forward with confidence instead of comparison fatigue. The goal is not choosing a product, it's building a plan that adapts over time. That's so true. I'll open it up if there are any questions. I know I moved through it fairly quickly. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any before we conclude.
Yep, we have a few questions that came in.
Fantastic.
The first question is, can you buy a term and a perm?
Oh, definitely. Yes. I've done it. I've helped several clients do it. It's often a strategy called laddering, which you have insurance that starts and stops and kind of overlaps over time. So to give you an example, I had a term policy I took out years ago that will eventually run out on me in about another 8 or 9 years, but then I put a permanent plan in place behind it that will continue to cover what I need it to once the term policy falls away. So absolutely yes to that question.
And the next question is, who is the best fit for IULs? I know that I've been asking this question to myself a lot because I'm considering getting an IUL.
Yeah, we talked about that the other day. Well, the answer is there's probably several. It depends. What would be a good idea is to get some of the top carriers that we have that offer the IUL and put together a comparison side by side and finding the top three or four and kind of just looking at them to see. But some of them offhand are, North American, Allianz, National Life. There's several others that we can connect you to get that policy put together.
And the next question, how do I get the best policy for my client?
Well, I mean, the way to get the best policy for your client is to be very thorough in the questions you ask them. The more information, it's like a doctor in the doctor's office, the better he can treat you is the more honest you are with your doctor, so getting them, when you're sitting with your client, getting them the best information you can so that when you put the application through underwriting, you're going to get the best possible approval possible because that's what's going to dictate the offer and what we call having the best policy. It also matters what you define as best. Is best meaning the least expensive? Does it mean the one that has the most potential amount of growth? There's different, does it have the best living benefits? Um, that's a discussion that you have to have with your client once you have as much information as you can. And if you ever need to talk that through, give me a call. I'm happy to go through all those ins and outs and make sure you're on the right path to submitting the right app to the right carrier to getting your client's needs met.
And a question that comes in a lot is, how do I sell an IUL?
Well, there's several different ways because IUL does several different things. That kind of ties back to the question they just answered. It's through we used to call it a discovery when we'd sit down with our client for the first time, kind of doing a needs analysis. And, is their goal to just have a permanent policy that they're going to have a set amount of coverage for the rest of your life? And if that's their main focus, then we'd want to structure that IUL and present that as an option for them to have a level policy with a level premium and a level death benefit that's going to survive. It's going to be there through their whole life that they can't outlive. Another way to sell the IUL is with the living benefits. What if, let's forget about death for a second. A lot of bad things can happen to us while we're still alive. And I've seen it happen. And I've had in my own life things happen that I'd wished I had living benefits for myself or a family member to help cover some of the things that happen to us when we're living. So that's a discussion that I would be working in to the conversation every time. And then the other is to, potential tax-free income through policy loans and retirement. If there's a hole in your retirement somewhere that needs to be filled, whether that's, a gap in your pension or, not enough in your 401k or not enough in whatever retirement vehicle you have, putting together an IUL is a very sound and solid strategy to supplement retirement. I hope that answered it.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is another great question and a question that we get a lot. What
Yeah.
happens if I have a client with numerous health issues?
Well, that's always going to happen. We're always going to come across people that have health issues. That's what we do. That's the business we're in. Not everybody is going to be in perfect shape, right? That's what's great about working with Penny is we have in-house underwriter that can specifically help guide us through those issues and match us with the appropriate carrier for the health condition. We specialize in those kind of impaired risk cases. So those cases are going to happen. Bring them to us. Let us look at them. Let our internal underwriter look at those and come up with recommendations. I'm working on one actually right now with someone that had a prior cancer history, and there's going to be some hoops that the agent and the client have to jump through to get it done. But I think they're going to be able to get the client what she wants in the end, and that's what we do. So don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you have a client like that, we'll work with you on it.
And the next question, do we offer a guarantee of the face amount on any universal policies?
A guarantee of the face amount?
Correct.
It's all going to depend on how the IUL is structured and designed. And if you design it and structure it that way, then the face amount will be guaranteed through that product.
And when do you recommend whole life?
Well, whole life is an option that I bring up when I'm meeting with somebody that wants long-term coverage and that may not want to look at an IUL and deal with, you know, the ins and outs and the moving parts of an IUL, that wants just a set solid premium and face amount. I would compare, if you want my opinion, I would prepare both options for if it was a client of mine, and shows them the IUL and the whole life side by side and point out the benefits and features to both, and then let the client choose what they feel is best.
And the final question, does the penny back office compare the carriers for the agent?
Yes, they do. We'll do that through the quoting process. So we're happy to, on the front end, run a comparison across as many carriers as needed to make sure that you got plenty of places to pivot during your presentation. So absolutely.
That seems to be all the questions. Chad, do you
Those
have
are
any
good
closing
questions.
thoughts?
No, those are great questions. Those are my closing thoughts. My closing thoughts are is don't be shy, don't hesitate to reach out to us here. That's what we're here for, is to help make your guys' life easier through our A team that I talked about, getting synced up with them and letting them handle kind of the administrative stuff, you know, all the stuff that we don't get as agents paid to do, all the, you know, we get paid for writing apps and putting apps into the system. All that other stuff, let us do for you so you can stay out in the field in front of your clients and generating more opportunities.
And thanks for joining us, everyone. Be sure to stay tuned for our educational series. So we launched an educational series. So every Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be covering new topics. So be on the lookout for that. And again, thanks everyone for joining. I hope you have a great day, and be on the lookout for the recording. Thanks so much. And
Thank you, everybody.
Chad.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank you, everybody, for your time and attending today.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next time.